in his footsteps.
Welcome back to In His Footsteps. Today we're following Jesus into the wilderness.
That's right. Last time, Luke paused the story to give us Jesus' genealogy.
That pause for the family tree at first seems random, but it was very intentional. God the Father claimed Jesus as his son at the baptism, and through the genealogy, Luke emphasized that Jesus is indeed God's son.
And now we continue with the story. Let's have our friend Nina Sudarovich read us this week's memory verse found in Luke chapter 4, verses 1 to 2.
Then Jesus, full of the Holy Spirit, returned to the Jordan River. He was led by the Spirit in the wilderness, where he was tempted by the devil for 40 days. Jesus ate nothing at that time and became very hungry.
The temptation of Jesus is probably familiar to many of you, but we're going to go over it slowly, part by part.
For starters, Luke writes that Jesus was full of the Holy Spirit and led by the Spirit. This already tells us a lot. Jesus is not following his own agenda. He's following God's leading through the Holy Spirit. He submitted to God through his baptism, and now he continues to submit to God's leading.
From a human point of view, it doesn't make much sense. Why would Jesus go to the wilderness after the incredible divine endorsement of his identity and mission at his baptism? Why not keep the momentum going and jump right into his public ministry?
Jesus modeled for us trusting God's leading and timing. Filled with the Spirit and led by the Spirit, he submitted to God's agenda. He obeyed his Father.
It is an incredible example, Douglas. Sometimes things don't make sense to us. But the question for us is not, do we get it? The question is, will we trust and obey?
We'll soon see why Jesus went into the wilderness. And maybe sometimes we will understand why he had to do something. But even if we do not understand, the questions remains. Will we trust and obey?
Jesus was filled with the Holy Spirit and led by the Holy Spirit. So, in the wilderness, he wasn't alone. He had the support and guidance of the Spirit. Even though he suffered hunger, deprivation, and loneliness, he wasn't left to his own devices. The Holy Spirit remained with him.
That's right, Rebecca. And when Jesus faced the devil, we can trust that the Holy Spirit helped guide him in that conflict.
And this can be reassuring for us because as believers, the Holy Spirit is with us too. Whatever we're facing, whether suffering, conflict, or temptation, the Holy Spirit is there to guide us through it if we surrender to him as Jesus did.
I have something to illustrate this point, Rebecca.
I love your illustrations, and I was hoping you would.
This represents the wilderness. It can be a literal wilderness like Jesus faced, or it can be metaphorical wilderness like we all face sometimes. And here we have a compass that represents the Holy Spirit. Now let me place the compass in the middle here of that sand. As we know, the compass is crucial for finding and maintaining direction. Jesus was led by the Holy Spirit in the wilderness. The Holy Spirit was his compass, guiding him even in a barren, lonely, and challenging environment. We too can rely on the Holy Spirit's guidance. In fact, we need to, especially in difficult or confusing times. like a compass, the Holy Spirit can direct us when we feel lost or tempted to go the wrong way.
Thank you, Douglas. That was a really nice and reassuring illustration.
My pleasure, Rebecca, as always.
So Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. But why did he go there? And why for 40 days?
The story of Jesus and the whole Bible is absolutely amazing. There are so many layers to it. The layer we'll focus on today is how Jesus' baptism and wilderness wandering mirrored the Israelites when they left Egypt.
Wow, I find this very fascinating. The Israelites left Egypt and passed through the Red Sea. Jesus left his hometown and vocation and was baptized in the Jordan River.
And then the Israelites wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Their character as God's people and their commitment to Him were put to test so they could have a true picture of themselves. And they fail miserably time after time.
Jesus did not wander for 40 years, but he was in the wilderness for 40 days. And Luke says that all that time he was tempted by the devil. His identity as God's son, his character, and his commitment to God's leading were all put to test. But Jesus came out victorious.
Jesus' time in the wilderness showed him to be the new Israel. He was fully qualified to be God's representative on earth, just as God had always intended Israel to be. But where Israel failed, Jesus succeeded.
In his genealogy, Jesus is shown to be the new Adam, the one who won't fail. And through his wilderness experience, he's shown to be the new Israel, the one who won't fail.
Once he's shown as the new Israel, then Jesus begins his public ministry.
Yeah, and there are even more layers to Jesus' temptation story. But we'll get to those in the coming episodes.
For now, rejoice that you have a king who did not fail where humans failed. You have a king who is victorious in every way.